So here is my Black Panther review. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Um, Obviously, mm, I'm I agree with everyone who has seen the movie and has been excited about it. I initially, when I first heard about it, I had my concerns because I didn't know how invested Marvel was going to be in the film. It was filmed here in Atlanta, so I actually know people personally, first degree of separation, as far as persons who have worked on the film. And I know how talented those people are in every capacity, so I was more excited the more I heard. But my initial concern with the film was that Marvel would not be as invested in it and that it would have to stand alone, which I found out because there was only one Marvel executive actually on there. Generally, on a Marvel film, there's like 5 or 6 producers. This one only had one Marvel producer on it, and I was sure it was just to make sure of the continuity for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and information with the comic books. But there was no hand-holding on this movie. And I was concerned because it means so much from a standpoint of being able to have an African or an African American protagonist that's leading a movie in this fashion. And then when you have so many supporting characters that are also African American, or let me just say characters from the African diaspora and actors from the African diaspora, this film really had to do as well as, well, no, it had to do better than the other films. Let me just tell the truth. It had to do better than the other Marvel films. It had to do better than Thor. It had to. It had to be on par with Captain America. It had to be on par with essentially the other singular character films and with the Avenger film. So my concern was that there wouldn't be enough investment made into the film. My other concern was that the film would be treated as a one-off film. So even though it was part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that it would not have very much impact on it. Like you would be able to see the rest of the Infinity War arc without necessarily having to see the Black Panther film. And this is not a knock toward Marvel. This is not a knock toward Ryan Coogler or anybody who was involved in the Black Panther film at all. This is actually a knock toward the industry, because as far as representation is concerned, we are so used to not seeing it or it not really being invested in like it should be. For instance, Red Tails and other films of the like. We are so used to Hollywood telling us that if it is a film with black faces telling these stories, that they don't know how to market it to a general audience. And I said some disparaging things in quiet corners, and I can admit that and I openly apologize for those things I have said, because not only has the film proven me wrong, not only has every aspect of it proven me wrong, but Marvel taking this chance. And I always say Hollywood is run by lawyers and accountants. I am really shocked by how much creative energy and how much support. And I know that Ryan had to fight for certain things. People had to fight and make choices, because these big Hollywood films, you do. But I was pleasantly surprised by what I saw and the support that this film got in order to get made. Everyone it's a genius, because I can't tell where I can't tell where Ryan Coogler starts and where the actors end and where the design people end and the execution of the movie from the directors and the gaffers. Like, I can't tell who made what decision. This movie is so well made. Just a piece of artwork in and of itself, regardless of who was cast in the roles, first and foremost. Secondly, the way that it was crafted, the story, and everybody knows that I'm a huge story person, story and character. There are so many things, so many themes, major themes and minor themes that run through this movie from scene to scene. The actors execute it so well. It's executed. There's still parts that I'm trying to deconstruct. You have to see this movie 3 times, not just to go and support it, but to be able to see everything and really dissect what is going on in this film and what conversations are happening in the quiet moments, in the shots that are selected, and how those things are set up. So I'm going to dissect a little bit here myself, because I've seen a lot of feedback from the film and everybody is excited, and that's fantastic. But for me, D.L. Hughley said that we learn a lot from films. It influences our culture, and he's absolutely right about. And you can go to YouTube and actually see from the GED section, I think is the name of that segment of his radio show. But I'm seeing a lot of people who are praising Killmonger, and they're praising M'Baku and the sexual excitement and everything else from that. Those points of view are valid, but what disturbs me is that no one is really looking at how far the character took it and why. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the movie. If you still have to see it, go ahead and shut me off and then go out and see the movie and then come back to this. But Eric Killmonger, even though he was correct in his pain, and he had every right to challenge T'Challa for the throne because his birthright was taken away from him, you have to look at the fact that he wanted to burn the world. He wasn't looking at just overthrowing everybody. He wasn't looking at freedom fighting. He was looking at becoming a colonizer. He was looking at following the actions that he said were incorrect actions, that were hurtful, that were destructive. He was wanting to do that back. He was not interested in freedom or justice. He was interested in revenge, and he was actually interested in nihilism. He wanted the world to burn because he thought that that was what was best for him. Now, if he was looking for justice, he would be looking to ensure that no 6-year-old child would have to live without their father. That's justice. But he wanted to take over the world. And in fact, he quotes something that was said in the British Empire in the late 1600s, early 1700s. There was a saying, a moniker with slavery and the acquisition of colonialism when it really started to take off. Because what he said about Wakanda in the throne room was, the sun will not set on the Wakandan Empire. Now that's the exact same thing that the British said during that time. Yes, he was correct about his point of view of why aren't we helping people who need help, but the way that he went about it was wrong. And his solution to the problem would only create more fatherless 6-year-olds. And that's something that we have to look at. We can't just say that he was right and leave it as that. This is not a conversation that just simply gets 140 characters and you move on. No. And that is the problem today. We want to be hyping our emotion, and that's the thing about him, is that he spent so much time, that character, and Michael B. Jordan played it beautifully. But Eric Killmonger spent so much time living for the revenge that it became a high, it became a part of his psyche, that his motivation for living became his only way of living. And so he was cracked and damaged, not just because he didn't have his father in his life, but because he didn't know any way else to live. That once he finally got the throne, and once he finally destroyed the world, what would you do next? Obviously, you would reach out to the stars and begin conquering there. It doesn't end, and that's not the life that we want. So please be very careful when you say that Killmonger was right. Be very careful about that. Look at the difference between his behavior in the throne room and T'Challa's behavior in the throne room. And monarchy is a big, and that is something that's going to be talked about as well throughout all three films, I believe, is Eric Killmonger is the argument for why monarchy does not work. As a monarch, you have absolute power, period, regardless of what your advisors say. We saw what we saw with T'Challa and T'Chaka, for the most part, was a positive viewing of how monarchy should work. But then there's always the Eric Killmongers. And that's the reason why democracies are set up the way that they are, as broken as they are, as broken as our democracy is. Here, because we have people trying to be Eric Killmongers here. That's another theme that was in the film. When too much power resides in one hand, or when a group of people actually, because it did take one of the advisors, two of the advisors actually, the two war councilmen, to side with Eric Killmonger in order for him to take over Wakanda completely. Even though we knew that it was wrong and what he wanted was the world to burn, they still sided with him as counselors. So the general of the Dora Milaje and then the general of the Border Patrol, who have seats on the council for Wakanda, they sided with him, even though they knew what he wanted to do was wrong. So that's one character. So obviously, and listen to what Ryan Coogler talks about in the interviews. Obviously, Eric and T'Challa could not both live. They could not live in the same world. And that's made evident by the quote that we see bouncing around social media. But when you see it actually in context of the scene of the entire movie, you really get it. It makes the most sense. And it's a wonderful character choice that Michael B. Jordan leads us to. I can't say enough good things about how important your antagonist in the film has to be, how the antagonist is pivotal to the storytelling of that takes a story from a good story to a fantastic, epic story that stands the test of time. This film will be, as far as I am concerned, it stands up to not only all of the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also all of the films, period, as far as having a social discussion about these decisions. And all of the actors, from the leads to the so-called extras, understanding what their role is and executing it, and when everybody is in alignment as to the importance of the storytelling and what has to be done, and when everybody plays their role to a hilt. Even the extras did so, and it was fantastic. Let me move forward. So Eric Killmonger, you saw a difference between how he ran the throne and how T'Challa ran the throne. And then I'm going to talk about M'Baku too, because it's my belief that M'Baku is going to be the next antagonist in the next film. Talking to Ryan Coogler, I didn't talk to him, but watching his interviews, the theme, and you hear me talk about theme all the time when it comes to storytelling, the theme and the purpose and expectation of the movie essentially is tradition versus innovation. And so that was the major theme that Ryan gave to everyone who is involved creatively and marketing. When you look at the marketing of the film, basically all of the department heads for the film had this theme, and they ran with it. and you will see it throughout the entirety of the film. So when you look at M'Baku and you look at why M'Baku is challenging, and he says the things that he does in challenging. When you look at M'Baku and you look at his throne, his throne room, because we get a chance to see that, you'll see that there is a stark difference between what his throne room looks like and what T'Challa's throne room looks like. And if you make the correlation, you'll see that M'Baku's throne room is very similar to how Eric Killmonger ran the throne. And the fact that there are no women in it. In fact, I think the rescue, because T'Challa, when the throne is taken, T'Challa asks M'Baku, basically giving us the enemy of my enemy is my friend, also a nod back to World War I and World War II, that ideology. And M'Baku initially says no, of course, because where was your talk of us being together all of these years when we made the split? But M'Baku is going to move to overthrow T'Challa in the future, and we know this is happening. And so when he does finally enter the war to stop Eric Killmonger, it is not because it is what is best for Wakanda for T'Challa to be on the throne. It is because it is best for M'Baku for T'Challa to remain on the throne and not Eric Killmonger. One, because Eric Killmonger is planning to share with the world Wakandan technology, and M'Baku is a fan of tradition. So obviously he doesn't want that. He wants to stop Eric Killmonger. Second, Eric Killmonger plays for keeps. You see, M'Baku still thinks that T'Challa is weak. So he would rather have a weak king on the throne, quote unquote, than he would have a strong king on the throne. So all of those, also with the fact that obviously Eric is coming as soon as he finds something of use from the ape tribe. Obviously he's coming to get it and coming to take it. He's not asking for shit. So those are the things. So definitely M'Baku is going to be the next, I believe, the next antagonist in the next Black Panther film, especially with the fallout that's going to come from the Infinity War. Because, like I had said before, I was concerned about the place that Black Panther, the film in Wakanda, would have in the Infinity War. Apparently, it's ground zero. And for those of you who are upset about, well, why is Wakanda ground zero? New York already got its ass kicked in the first Avengers film. New York got its ass handed to them. And because of Wakandan technology, now Earth is actually going to have a chance at repulsing Thanos. And you can read the shade that is being said with that, but it's not shade if it's true. All of our advancements, everything that could be, all the things that is happening as Africa, there's a reason why Africa was colonized, and the reason why it's continuing to be colonized right now. All of our resources, all of our hope, all of our imagination, all of the innovation springs from Africa. We can take it from the people there, and we can look there for our needs. You can take that shade for whatever it's worth, but it's true. It's the truth. So for me, all of that being said, Wakanda is probably going to be destroyed. Thanos is going to have to destroy Wakanda. So then M'Baku and M'Baku's kingdom, his part of the kingdom, will suffer for it. So he will step up in order to become champion. So as T'Challa is spending more time away from Wakanda, M'Baku will be cementing himself as its de facto ruler, and then challenging for the throne and usurping T'Challa. And I'm sure that's what the next movie is going to point toward. Nakia. All of the female characters, it was, like everybody said, it was a breath of fresh air to see how relationships between men and women should work. And I'm not just talking about black men and women. I'm talking every man and every woman's relationship. You should have your differences. You should have your points of view, but it's the long view picture of how do our visions of what we want the world to look like align. And in order for that to happen, you have to have a woman who is thinking about the future and is thinking about that vision and has to articulate it. In fact, that's how every relationship should be. So every friendship that you have, male or female, should be along those lines. How do our visions for the future align? Nakia, talk about her. Yes. Okay. I get it. She's right. And T'Challa ends up changing his mind about things and moving things forward because of it. But here is the thing. There's a key scene that she has with the general of the Dora Milaje, and I'm going to start learning the characters' names because I have to. But she has a key scene just after Killmonger takes the throne, and she's like, "You have to." Nakia's like, "You have to come with us," and she goes, "No, I am loyal to the throne. What are you loyal to?" And Nakia says something like, I'm not getting the exact quote. She's loyal to what she loves. Now, everybody can be excited about that, and it's a wonderful sentiment, but when you look at the character and you look at the comic book reflection of the character, and you know that she is a jilted lover and obsessed with T'Challa, that little what's called an Easter egg sets us to know what path that she's on. Because we do know that Storm has entered the MCU universe with the purchase of Fox, and there's another character, Monica, who is actually in the States, who T'Challa meets in the States. So while Nakia is running off doing her thing, T'Challa will meet Monica at some point, and sparks will begin to fly. So she's loyal to what she loves. Love is an emotion. It's a feeling that we have. But unless that love is backed up by what's here, it can and does lead us down the wrong path. So I am excited. I'm excited to see the direction, to see Lupe, the actress, Lupia, be able to go down this path and the journey that it will take her. And if I had my druthers, Nakia would be the antagonist in the third Black Panther movie, so that we get a full development of this character from this arc, and the understanding that we're not too far from who these people are. I always say, as a writer, you want to write characters and antagonists particularly that make the audience go, but for the grace of God, go I. That the audience so identifies with the antagonist that they really think about the actions and they're like, is this right or wrong? And this is precisely what the movie has done. And I'm so excited, and I'm going to watch Infinity War now, because I wasn't going to watch Infinity War, to be honest with you. After the last Avengers movie, I was done, but now I'm going to watch Infinity War. Anyway, it's time for me to get to the gym. I have so been invigorated by having watched this movie, and moving forward with my plans and fighting hard and looking at my long term. So this is M. Jason Graham. A lot of people ask me who I am, and I let them know that I'm a storyteller, just passing by. Remember that. Oh, I'm sorry. Wakanda forever. Ja Matane.